Good evening. Today is Monday, the 27th of December 2021. The time is 8 p.m. in Canberra. We will begin the weekly Bangla radio program from Canberra 2XX community radio station. This program is being broadcasted by the courtesy of Community Broadcasting Foundation Limited and Bangladesh Australia Association in Canberra. Every Monday at 8 p.m, this program is broadcasted on FM 98.3 MHz. Tonight the program is presented by me, Adiba, Ahmed,
and me, Adnin, Zahid.
Tonight's program will be a wrap-up of 2021, where we discuss key events of each month.
We're basically at the end of 2021, and everything's kind of wrapping up in what it was another crazy year that no one expected. It came out of nowhere, but we made it. We're at the end of 2021.
Did you think that we would have actually ever gone into a second lockdown?
As in after you mean
one?
a third lockdown?
Like,
oh, okay. You mean a third lockdown? No, a second lockdown. No, I didn't. Not consider, and not one that was stricter than the first one. Maybe if you did, then another lockdown, but not one that was stricter than the first lockdown. Definitely, I didn't think so. But Delta came around and
Omicron's on the horizon.
But that's okay. I think although there were some bad things and things that didn't go according to everyone's plans, there were still some good things that happened, or some interesting things that happened throughout 2021, and I think it's a good chance now to just kind of sit and just have a look back on kind of what were the key events that happened in 2021 that you might have even forgotten about, actually.
So in January, I remember that there was a bit of talk about how there was the change to Australia's national anthem for the first time since 1984, and the national anthem is called Advance Australia Fair, and the line that was changed was from For We Are Young and Free to For We Are One and Free, and this was to be more inclusive, which I think is a very great thing.
Yeah, the background there is that the For We Are Young is considering Federation happened in 1901.
Talking about a young country.
Yeah, but the fact was thinking about Indigenous people and their history in Australia, it's not such a young country, so that's why those words were changed from We Are Young and Free to For We Are One and Free. Yeah.
Which I think was a great move, and I commend moves like that. I think as we go into the future and we acknowledge the past as well, it's really important.
Yeah, and I think in January as well was the attack on the US Capitol.
Yeah.
By supporters of Donald Trump. So that was again an interesting.
That was
no one could have seen that one coming.
I don't think so, but then also we shouldn't have been surprised. I guess I didn't expect it to be as violent as it was.
Yeah, 5 people died during the riots, including a police officer. So it was classified as a domestic terrorist attack. And drew international condemnation. So I think the fact that it was quite a significant moment in history, because I don't think that's ever
not the Capitol.
Yeah, no one's ever been able to in fact in the Capitol building. So it's quite significant.
Yeah,
and that was just 2020 happened, and then straight away bang, first week of 2021. On January 20, Joe Biden was inaugurated as the 46th president of the United States. And I think for me, at least, that was kind of a sense of this is a new chapter. Yeah,
it felt like an era for change. Because I think from just things that I've heard, not my personal point of view, but during Trump's turn, I think there were countries that didn't necessarily take him seriously.
Yeah.
So it almost felt like, I guess, for more of the Democratic supporters in the US, they wanted that seriousness back. They wanted US to be considered, I guess, one of the biggest economic powers and things like that. So I think for the US in particular, the people who are democratically voting in the US, they were very keen for this.
Yeah, and I think especially in January as well, we were remiss not to mention COVID, but in January itself, the global death toll for COVID-19 passed 2 million. That was in January.
Wow, that's really sad.
But February,
yeah. So in February, Facebook really sort of was flexing when they blocked all of the Australian news websites from sharing news content on Facebook, and they prevented any Facebook.
It was just overnight. Like, no one knew it was coming.
So apparently they threatened it the year prior.
Yes, they did.
When the first conversations about the media bargaining laws were occurring, Facebook did threaten the Australian government. But it still sort of came out of nowhere because, I mean, not that I personally use Facebook that much myself. I remember my friends messaging each other, like, on our group chats, like, going, hey, guys, like, you know, I can't access Facebook.
It didn't last too long. As in,
no, I think it was only
the government got involved.
It sparked the direct negotiations between the government and Facebook. And then even though Google was sort of on the sidelines and on Facebook, like, they had a similar point of view to Facebook, they didn't have to get involved. They kind of got off looking a bit better. Like, Facebook was just showing the power that it has, because I think from statistics, majority of Australians get their media information primarily from Facebook.
Yeah.
So, and Facebook, knowing this, chose to act in this way to basically show to the government, like, hey, we are the big player, so you have to listen to us. In the end, after further negotiations, Facebook had to make some concessions, the government had to make some concessions, but the media bargaining laws did pass. So in March, I recall, Adnin, there was that Oprah interview that she did, which is a sort of a tell-all from Meghan and Harry about what they faced being a part of the royal family.
Yeah, I do remember that, and I think she came out with allegations during that interview about some racial treatment of herself due to her,
her being of a different background.
Yeah. And then the fact that some of that racial treatment had also, like, been put upon her son as well. Yeah,
because there was conversations around, I guess, mixed race and potential mixed race future genes and things like that. All stuff that is, like, very controversial.
I think
very
the royal
sad.
family came out and
they denied it.
Claim.
They said that was not something that happened. So very controversial and very interesting, but also really nice to see Oprah back in on my TV.
Yeah.
Because I never really exactly planned to watch her. I mean, on a very fringe way, like, you know, I was interested. But then, like, a couple of my friends actually were really keen. So we all ended up turning on our TVs and sort of watching it together and sort of commenting together.
That's cool. You guys look at lives and everything?
Yeah. We were like texting live to each other, like, can't believe that happened.
Yeah, interesting. I think I watched, like, the highlights. I didn't get to watch the whole thing. But another thing that happened in March, which was really interesting, was the Ever Given, which was one of the world's largest container ships. Was run aground, and it actually obstructed the Suez Canal, which is, like, one of the major, like, canals through which global trade is conducted. And so basically that, like, stopped global trade. Not stopped, but disrupted global trade for a bit, and there was heaps of memes.
I love the memes, I'm not gonna lie.
That came out from that as well.
Some of the memes were very much giving me life. Like, that massive ship, it was, you know, I mean, when I buy something, I don't necessarily think, how did it come to me?
Literally,
The only time that I'm thinking, how did it come to me, is when I'm thinking, hey, the postman said it'll be here, and it's not here. Or, like, I'm waiting at the window wanting my parcel to arrive.
And it's just on a ship, my parcel on a ship somewhere in the middle of the Suez Canal this time.
Yeah, there were so many the memes about, like, oh, why is my parcel late? Oh, it must be on the Ever Given in the Suez Canal.
It's so funny because I think a lot of people don't realize that's how global. Literally, I think I read a statistic. It was like 90% of the world's global trade to this day still occurs via water, via ship.
Which isn't something to think that. I think I was always thinking everything's being flown.
No,
like,
flying is too expensive.
Yeah.
So flying is, like, things that are, like, maybe high value or like urgent, like, you know, medical things like that.
Things that need to be there quickly.
Things that like are necessities. I believe that those are still flown, like, they're flown. But the other things, like your consumer goods and stuff, that's all by water. So I guess maybe it drew a bit of a spotlight on that, and, you know, 2021, but that is still our main form of trade.
Yeah.
Now we're in April, so we're getting towards the middle of the year. We spoke a bit Yeah, we spoke about the royal family a bit earlier in the Oprah interview that occurred between Meghan Markle and Prince Harry. And then in April, something quite shocking happened, which I think the world was quite left stunned, which was Prince Philip's death 2 months premature of his 100th birthday. And it wasn't due to COVID. I think that was one of the big things. Like,
yeah, there was so much conversations around how a lot of people who died due to COVID were because they were aged.
Yeah, no, he had ongoing health concerns, and he was in and out of hospital around that time, and passed away in hospital. But yeah, it was still quite shocking, and I think especially a lot of people really felt for the Queen.
Yeah.
He had been her kind of support, and actually recently, I think maybe during the holiday season earlier this year, watched The Crown. It's a really good TV show, and it shows you the life of from Queen Mary, her being sworn in as the Queen of England, even before being sworn in, and her life, and a lot of her life obviously revolved around Prince Philip and their love story and like their marriage. They showed a lot about their marriage. And a lot of the things that he kind of gave up to be with her, and just his character in general. He was quite a jolly fella, quite sporty, very active, he was actually quite a interesting human being, and a lot of people came up with words of condolences around Prince Philip's death.
Can you imagine, like...
I think they're married for 70 years or so.
Wow.
They were married for a very, 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 very long time. He's about 800, so... Like, if you got married in his 30s, yeah, they were together for a very long time. So that was quite sad, actually.
So in May, if you remember, Adnin, there was the Israel-Palestine crisis.
Yeah,
which was
that seems like a long time ago, but that was this
year.
year.
Yeah, that was this year. So Israel hit the Gaza Strip with airstrikes as Hamas increases
their rocket fire.
Yeah, this occurred after Israel began displacing Palestinians in the Sheikh Jarrah neighborhood of East Jerusalem. A ceasefire was agreed on 21st of May between Israel and the Palestinian militant group Hamas.
But that wasn't without
casualties.
Significant casualties. And I remember, like, at that time, like, all of our TVs, all our Instagrams, all our social media was, which was really good to see as well, that this wasn't, and I think what came to light was, like, this is a big attack, but this is what they face almost
on a daily
basis, and it's not reported, it's not shared on social media, but this was quite large scale. But even then, it's like something that happens every single day. So it was quite heartbreaking to see a lot of things, and that was shown on TVs, on social media. A lot of it was also quite hard to understand, but it was good to see that a lot of influencers, a lot of people were coming just to kind of share their opinion or try and explain it or put in their 2 cents.
Yeah, because I think there doesn't seem to be like a clear, and it's difficult because when it comes to humanity, there's no true enemy, right? Like, humans are inherently flawed, and without clear understanding of things that happened in history regarding this conflict, it was very easy for people, I think, to sort of pass judgment or pass blame without being informed. So I think it was really great to see that social media this time was used as a platform to inform and to shed a objective light on sort of past occurrences, to allow people to understand their own sort of, to come to their own opinions, but also to share that the extreme struggles that people who are living this conflict day to day have to face, because as Adnin said, it's not shared that often.
Yeah, and I think the death toll, they say, exceeds 150 from that crisis. And I remember, of course, there was quite this graphic footage of Israeli airstrikes actually hitting a high-rise office building in Gaza, which was actually occupied by news outlets
such as Al Jazeera.
Yeah. So I remember seeing that on my TV, definitely, and on my phone. Quite upsetting. So in June, there was an interesting one. So El Salvador in South America became the first country that passed legislation to actually adopt Bitcoin as a legal tender in the country. And it was the first, I guess, country in the world to adopt cryptocurrency as a legal tender. And I think at that point, Bitcoin was actually down a lot, which is not a good thing. But yeah, that's very interesting. Like, you know, like after the Bitcoin rise in, I think it was 2017, like it's still here, even though it's gone down quite a bit. But there are countries that actually are now using crypto as their currency, which is really, really interesting and scary because it's not money that you see.
Yeah, it's and
it's all digital.
And that's the thing, because like they always talk about nowadays in terms of how to boost the economy, and some people are like, well, guess what? Just print some more paper. Money is paper.
That creates hyperinflation.
Exactly.
You've always heard, right?
Which is the risk that they don't think about, because suddenly, like for some reason, money sounds really infinite to people. But it's technically not. In closed economies, it's not infinite. But I thought that was a very interesting thing to learn, that they'd recognised it, because in order to be able to use it, they had to legislate for it. And, you know, maybe this will spark, like, cryptocurrency becoming acceptable tender around the world.
I feel like I don't see it ever happening in Australia.
No, I think there's a lot of risk with it. That's the thing. But the risks do come from it being unregulated as well. But I thought that this actually, as you're talking, I didn't spark my memory. I recently watched a show which I think is getting quite a lot of views, called Murder in the Building. You haven't heard about it? Okay, so it's on Disney, as far as I know, Disney Plus in Australia. Selena Gomez is on it.
Oh,
yeah.
Is it Murder in the Building?
Murder in the Building.
And Disney Plus, okay.
Yeah, and so it's Selena Gomez with two other veteran American actors whose names so one is Steve Martin, and the other you guys will have to Google, sorry. But they're both they're all three of them fantastic actors, and it's just really like it's a normal show for adults, but there's such a wholesome vibe as well, because like she gets along so well with them, and like they almost become like they almost had to take her under their care, and basically it's all to sort of solve the murder of someone she grew up with, which was one of the murders in the building. But like at one point they're having because when you live in those big buildings, there's like a housing association and everyone takes part in it. So at one of the meetings, there was a psychologist, and he was saying, oh, you know, I also take crypto. Like, not even just like cash or credit. It's cash, credit, or crypto.
And crypto, yeah, interesting. Another one that happened in June as well was the Euros, which was actually it's a soccer tournament. Sorry, it was actually held every 4 years, and it was supposed to be held in 2020, but of course due to COVID, and it's a really big thing in Europe. Like all the European nations kind of come together, and it's this big battle, and followed by everyone like religiously. Because I think there's quite a bit of like enemies and a bit of history there.
Yeah, there's a bit of history there.
But it was
football in Europe is huge.
Massive. But it was held in 2021. It was hosted by 11 different countries, and it was won by Italy after they beat England on penalties. So, you know, it's always a good game when it goes into the penalties.
Yes, very much. And speaking of things that were hosted in 2021 when they were originally supposed to be hosted in 2020, we move into July, which is when the 2020 Olympics in Tokyo was held.
Yes, so we're talking the Summer Olympics, which were, again, scheduled to happen in 2020. COVID happened, the world went into chaos, shut down. No one knew what was happening, not that it stopped in 2021, and there was lots and lots of talks about whether the event should be cancelled in 2021, if it's appropriate for it to go ahead, if it's appropriate for athletes and stars to be travelling the world when no one else can, and what kind of right did they have, and do we really need this? But it did go ahead. It didn't go ahead without issues, and there were, I think, some COVID cases or COVID-related issues during the event. But all in all, it was a really, really, really good event. I think everyone was saying it was kind of that hope or something that the world needed. Like, it was a global coming together. It was a global platform. Yeah, I think we had an episode on it as well. Yeah. It was a good time just to see, like, things felt normal.
Yeah, I feel like on a day-to-day basis, I heard jokes, not just that I felt this way, I've heard jokes within my friend groups about this, how, like, on a day-to-day basis, I'm not really walking around thinking Australian. But during the Olympics, I am thinking Australia.
Yeah, Aussie.
Yeah. August, Canberra went into the second lockdown.
Yeah, it was after kind of Sydney's lockdown as well. So I think Sydney before August was already in lockdown, and they were in lockdown from June actually, because I remember I was in Sydney the weekend that the COVID kind of thing happened, and the Delta variant was kind of found in Sydney. And yeah, so COVID lockdown 2.0 for Canberra.
I feel like we almost got a taste of it because I remember we had a 2-week mask mandate, and also, like, not gonna lie, because I personally really enjoy working from home. I like, at the risk to no one, but I was not opposed to a lockdown. But then when we got the 2-week mask mandate, I was like, oh, look, obviously I don't want anyone to be hurt or suffer. But then we did go into lockdown, and I feel like that it was because it was a snap lockdown. Like, I felt so ill prepared for it. I remember the exact day it happened, where I was at work, like what I was doing, and then I remember like running out in the middle of the day to Coles in Tuggeranong.
Why Coles? Coles was going to be open.
It was the closest thing.
Were you panic buying?
I was but I wasn't overbuying. I panic bought because, like, my sort of thinking was like, I don't have enough because the way that I live, which is probably not a great way to live, is I don't keep a lot of foundational ingredients in my house. So, like, you know how some people are like, oh, you just go into the fridge, put something together. I can't do that. Like, in order for me to cook a meal, I need to know what I need and buy it a few days before, or buy things for at least 3 meals in advance. I don't keep foundational ingredients. Like, I can't just whip out a bread or something like that.
You don't keep bread?
I know. I live a very odd way. But yeah, so I was just like, God, I'm going to be hungry. Like, I wasn't even thinking toilet paper, right? Like, I just thought I'm going to be hungry. But in the corner, I did find a discarded toilet tissue 12-pack. I added that to my little cart. But yeah, what were you doing during that time?
I just come out of an interview, so I was like in interview mode. I hadn't checked my phone, and then I checked my phone, and we're in lockdown. And yeah, I was like, what? And it was lunchtime, so lucky I had to go and buy my sister a monitor. So what else happened in August? We had the withdrawal of the US troops from Afghanistan, which was Joe Biden's kind of decision.
No, so Trump struck a deal in 2020 with the Taliban that would require withdrawing all of the US troops by May the 1st, and then 2 weeks before that deadline, President Joe Biden ordered a complete US withdrawal to be concluded by no later than September 11, 2021, which would be the 20th anniversary of the 9/11 attacks. As the withdrawal proceeded, the Afghanistan National Army collapsed and the Taliban overran the country. Kabul fell on August the 15th, which trapped thousands of foreigners in the capital city. The US, they launched a big effort to evacuate stranded Americans by August the 31st, which was a deadline set by the Taliban. The US withdrawal ended on August the 30th, and they left behind more than 100 US citizens and as many as 300,000 Afghans who may have qualified for expedited US visas.
Yeah, there was an Australian effort as well to
try to help out as well.
Yeah, to try and withdraw any kind of Australian citizens that were within Kabul or within Afghanistan at that time as well.
Yeah.
And again, horrific images surfaced around that time. Kabul airport, which was being ruled by Taliban at that time, and people trying to flee the country, desperately trying to get on flights. I remember seeing like people climbing on like the external plane wings, the tops of planes, trying to hang onto wheels, trying to flee the country, and that was just horrible. But let's move on to September. So in September, the 2021 Canadian federal election was held with Justin Trudeau, the current Prime Minister. He was re-elected with his Liberal Party retaining a minority government. So I think he's quite a well-liked Prime Minister.
I don't know,
globally
he's
known.
been losing some
really?
support, I think, for some key decisions. Yeah. But he's always known as one of the most handsome.
Definitely. That still stands.
What do you think about the concept of a minority government?
I don't know. I'm not too familiar with it, to be honest. But
if we give the Australian example, that would be why right now we have the coalition, which is the Liberal and Nationals together, rather than just the Liberals in power. So that's when you're a minority government. I was curious if you had any thoughts about that, because I kind of find it interesting because I feel like it's such a restricted way to, I guess, in a way, rule and make decisions, because not only is it very tough to make true reform occur and true changes occur, because you're not only battling the true opposition, which are people whose views you're diametrically opposed to, but you're having a lot of infighting as well, because you have to cater to this secondary party. I just find it a very interesting political concept.
rolling around now to October. I think the biggest piece of news that kind of shocked the world a little bit was Facebook changing its parent company name to Meta. So all the apps such as Facebook, Instagram, WhatsApp, etc. still retained their original name, but the actual company itself was called Meta. And they introduced the concept of the metaverse, which is a bit scary, in my opinion.
No, the metaverse always existed.
No, the metaverse always existed, but they named it. They named it as a metaverse.
Facebook is trying to become a part of the metaverse
by
changing to Meta. Facebook becoming
and in the same month, interestingly, there was a global outage of Facebook, Instagram, all Meta apps. Which is really interesting. I remember waking up one day and I could not send a message. I had to use old school SMS, and I'm not used to sending old school SMSs. I'm a person that's grown up with Facebook and Instagram and WhatsApp, and I just wasn't used to sending a text message. So I was like, something's wrong.
Come to the dark side, and come to Apple. iMessage is where it's at.
Oh gosh. Okay, I think there's another kind of key event that you want to talk about.
Yeah, the International Consortium of Investigative Journalists released the Pandora Papers, and these papers contained more than 12 million documents showing how the wealthy and powerful use offshore accounts to evade taxes and hide money. I think there's a lot of joking, and especially in popular media and TV shows and movies, they always joke about offshore, hiding money offshore and things like that, like the Cayman Islands. But
Barbados,
to actually have documented proof, I thought was very a bit concerning.
Yeah.
So in November, one great piece of news is that there has been more than 7.4 billion vaccine doses administered in 184 countries up until that month of 2021, with 70 countries making donations. The Delta variant was first identified last year in December 2020 in India, and it was more infectious than its predecessors, and it soon became the dominant strain around the world in 2021. In November 2021, South African scientists identified the emergence of a new variant called Omicron.
Yes, good old Omicron that we're dealing with right now.
And within a few weeks, Omicron has been found around the world. And as 2021 now ends, it's a bit unclear about the different factors Omicron is going to present, because could be a greater threat to the health of the world, or
the global economy as well.
Yeah, would the global economy go into another tailspin?
We don't know. I think that's one we'll have to wait on 2022 for. But December. So interesting again in kind of COVID news, and I didn't know this was because I think with COVID, 2020 was big news, and 2021 it's a bit we're a bit used to it. It's how life is now.
We adjust.
We adjust. We do.
We're slow to overcome, but we adapt.
But in that we come a bit more tunnel vision, and we're just kind of concerned with what's happening in us and what's happening in our world, in our country. For example, I didn't follow where the most COVID cases were, but interestingly, in December, the United States actually became the first country to surpass 50 million COVID-19 cases, so it's very, very scary.
And on 16th of December in 2021, we celebrate the 50th anniversary of the Bangladesh Liberation War, Mukti Juddha. So Mukti Juddha was an armed conflict between West Pakistan, which is now Pakistan, and East Pakistan, which is now Bangladesh. And the war resulted in Bangladesh's independence from Pakistan. Pakistan's partition from India in 1947 had arisen from the two-nation thesis that Muslims and Hindus in India were both nations and the people could not live together. When West Pakistan tried to impose Urdu as the official language in the East, a linguistic cultural opposition movement began. And the war lasted for roughly 9 months in 1971, until Pakistan surrendered. People in Bangladesh rejoiced at their liberation. Mukti Juddha is an important part of Bangladesh history, and it's really fundamental to the way that my parents raised me. I really appreciated that throughout the year there are different significant Bangladesh events that we continue to celebrate in Canberra, and I've grown up partaking in onushtans, in doing speeches, in doing dances to celebrate the importance of what Bangladesh achieved, or what Bangladesh's people achieved. We lost so many of our extended relatives at a point. For me, my parents lived through that war.
Yeah.
It's something they do speak about, and that's scary to think that my parents lived through a war, but Bangladesh came out as its own country. Parents are Bengalis, we're Bengalis, in order to commemorate this 50th anniversary of victory, Canberra is flying 32 flags and banners, which was organised by the Bangladesh High Commission at the iconic bridge of Canberra at Commonwealth Avenue for 7 days.
I've never seen the Bengali flags displayed and like on a Canberra icon like that before, which is really, really cool.
I kind of feel like that's just the perfect sort of marriage of my heritage.
Yeah.
Because I feel very Bengali Canberran, and we are speaking on Bangla Radio Canberra.
Bangla Radio Canberra.
শোনো একটি মুজিবরের থেকে লক্ষ মুজিবরের কণ্ঠ স্বরের ধ্বনি প্রতিধ্বনি আকাশে বাতাসে ওঠে রনি বাংলাদেশ আমার বাংলাদেশ বাংলাদেশ আমার বাংলাদেশ শোনো একটি মুজিবরের থেকে লক্ষ মুজিবরের কণ্ঠ স্বরের ধ্বনি প্রতিধ্বনি আকাশে বাতাসে ওঠে রনি বাংলাদেশ আমার বাংলাদেশ বাংলাদেশ আমার বাংলাদেশ সেই সবুজের বুকেরা মেঠো পথে আবার যে যাব ফিরে আমার হারানো বাংলাকে আবার তো ফিরে পাবো শিল্পে কাব্যে কোথায় আছে আইরে এমন সোনার খনি শোনো একটি মুজিবরের থেকে লক্ষ মুজিবরের কণ্ঠ স্বরের ধ্বনি প্রতিধ্বনি আকাশে বাতাসে ওঠে রনি বাংলাদেশ আমার বাংলাদেশ বাংলাদেশ আমার বাংলাদেশ কবি সোনার বাংলা নজরুলের বাংলাদেশ জীবনানন্দের রূপসী বাংলা রূপের যে তার নেই শেষ বাংলাদেশ বিশ্বকবি সোনার বাংলা নজরুলের বাংলাদেশ জীবনানন্দের রূপসী বাংলা রূপের যে তার নেই শেষ বাংলাদেশ জয় বাংলা বলতে মনে আমার কোনো কেন ভাবো আবার হারানো বাংলাকে আবার তো ফিরে পাবো অন্ধকারের পূব আকাশে উঠে আবার জীবনী শোনো একটি মুজিবরের থেকে লক্ষ মুজিবরের কণ্ঠ স্বরের ধ্বনি প্রতিধ্বনি আকাশে বাতাসে ওঠে রনি বাংলাদেশ আমার বাংলাদেশ বাংলাদেশ আমার বাংলাদেশ শোনো একটি মুজিবরের থেকে লক্ষ মুজিবরের কণ্ঠ স্বরের ধ্বনি প্রতিধ্বনি আকাশে বাতাসে ওঠে রনি বাংলাদেশ আমার বাংলাদেশ 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 বাংলাদেশ আমার বাংলাদেশ
We have now reached the end of our program. We hope that you have enjoyed tonight's program. We invite you to send your opinions of Bangla Radio Canberra to the following email, banglaradio@gmail.com. You're invited to follow Bangla Radio on Twitter and Facebook. If you join our Bangla Radio Facebook group, we'll send you our weekly program description. The next Bangla Radio will be broadcasted next Monday at 8 p.m. We welcome you to join us. Wherever you are, we hope that you stay well in peace and happiness. Good night.